And finally, I think it's fair to say that the current U.S.-Iranian enmity is fueled in large measure by the enmity between Iran and Israel. When Israel no longer had plausible Arab enemies, as after the flattening of Iraq by the U.S. In the Gulf War that I was part of, it invented an enemy in Iran. It had previously been close to Iran because the enemy of Iran is the Arabs, and the enemy of my enemy is my friend is the old motto from the Middle East. So this is a very complex relationship, but it is not based on strategic interest, although Israel conveniently tries to portray it that way.
I wanted to ask you about this idea that I found in your book that in the 90s, I guess if I'm not wrong, during the Clinton years, there was a shift in American foreign policy from an erstwhile policy of some sort of balance between, notably Iran and Iraq, towards a double containment, basically containing both Iran and Iraq and cutting them down to size. And that has led to long-term and very costly American involvement in the region. I'm wondering what you just suggested. Would you go to the extent of saying that that policy shift towards double containment was primarily because of Israel's instigation?
Yes, I think that's the case. I was at the Defense Department at the time. This policy was suddenly imposed on us by a political appointee, Martin Indyk, actually, who had been an Israeli citizen and was naturalized one day before taking up his responsibilities in the National Security Council staff. It was very hard for me or others in the region to see what benefit we would get from a policy that is fatiguing, expensive, and consumes a lot of resources. We had a policy of offshore balancing, which relied on balancing Iran and with other Arab countries, including Iraq, and which worked very well. The Gulf War coincided pretty much with the end of the Iran-Iraq face-off, and there was really no reason to choose to be in opposition to both, rather than to continue to use their enmity to maintain balance. But both were enemies of Israel, and therefore one has to assume that this was contrived for the benefit of Israel. I don't see what benefit it brought to us.
Ambassador, if you can just tell us a little bit about how you see the divisions within the Arab world. And I'm asking specifically the GCC on one hand and Iran on the other hand and their allies. What's the future of that divide?
Well, Iran is, of course, not Arab. It is Persian. Its roots go back thousands of years, and there is a distinctive Persian version of statecraft and a history that is quite distinct from that of the Arabs. There's also a lot of ethnic animosity, mutual contempt, if you will. And so this is an ancient division which has not gone away. But within the Arab world itself, I think we have an interesting divide. And it is a division between those who favor Islamic democracy and those who favor an autocracy. So we have General Sisi in Egypt, a military dictator, an elected autocracy, if you will, but nonetheless a dictator, whose principal enemy is the Muslim Brotherhood, which is a democratic movement committed to taking power at the ballot box and leaving government when it loses elections. It's also incompetent, but that's another issue. And we have, on the other hand, the Gulf Arab states, all of which are tribally organized autocracies. They are monarchies, if you will. They are run by emirs, meaning leaders in Arabic, who have responsibilities to the people defined by religion. They must hew to the consensus of the populace. They cannot make decisions at odds with that consensus, and they must distribute charity and take care of the needy in their society. And they've built modern societies around this based on oil wealth. They are adamantly opposed to Hamas, in large measure because Hamas is an offshoot of the Muslim Brotherhood. And if you talk to Hamas, as I have, since leaving government when I was not allowed to do that, if you talk to Hamas, you'll discover that they're quite sophisticated about democracy. They believe in it. And they say, in effect, in the past, in Arab societies, when you wish to pursue a moral agenda in politics, you had to rely on a thug, a dictator, a king, a prince, a general. We don't need that. We can derive our power from the consent of the governed expressed at the ballot box. Now, that is a threat to the quasi-monarchical, I would say it's really not. Aristotle didn't understand the Arab system of politics at all. He did not come up with a word for it. They call it in Yemen, pejoratively, Bedoukratia, ruled by Bedouin, meaning tribal traditions used to create a state. But in any event, it is a system of government that is not democratic, although it has many elements of openness to it. I mean, it's open to public opinion. It's deferential to public opinion, but it is not electoral. And therefore, Hamas is anathema to the rulers in the Gulf. One can get into geopolitics, which is, the common interest of the Gulf Arabs and Israel in reducing Iranian dominance of the region, preventing Iranian hegemony in the region. Iran has, with American help, achieved a position of hegemony in the Levant. It is the dominant influence in Syria and Lebanon. It is the dominant influence among the Houthis, who are the de facto government of at least most of Yemen. And
also large sectors of Iraq.
Also, it is very influential in Iraq, although not to the same extent. Iraqi nationalism is very strong, and it's not pro-Iranian. And it's very influential in Bahrain, where the majority is Shia, and where Iran has tried to build influence. If you're a Saudi, you see yourself surrounded by Iran, encircled, which explains a lot of Saudi behavior. But that's geopolitics.
It also has a complicated relationship with Qatar, I guess.
Well, Qatar straddles the Gulf. It is a sandy peninsula in the middle of the Persian Gulf. It shares its source of wealth, meaning the gas fields, with Iran. It has no choice. Its traditional enemies have not, sometimes have been Iran. There have been times when it was part of the Safavid Empire, Iranian Empire. Okay. But its principal enemy has been Saudi Arabia. And so it conducts a balancing act. It likes every country that begins with I, including India, Iran, Iraq, Israel. Maybe there's another one that begins with I, Indonesia, I guess. Anyway, this is a classic balancing act by a small country in the middle of a troubled region, very effectively conducted. One has to give the Qataris high marks for self-interest and cleverness in pursuing it. Anyway, if you are looking at the region geopolitically, you see a reduced conflict thanks to mediation by Iraq, by Oman, and ultimately by the Chinese, between Tehran and Riyadh. This is a relationship which is not close, but it is no longer overtly antagonistic. And that is important. And that is, of course, a refutation of the main argument that the United States had, or at least Jared Kushner had, for the ill-fated Abraham Accords. Basically, they were, as Hamas discerned, they were an effort to sideline the Palestinian issue and emphasize economics over politics. That was always naive. Now it's impossible.
Hi, my name is Ayushman. I, along with Jyotisman, have started this platform. In the last 2 years, we have tried to build content for the left and progressive forces. We have interviewed economists, historians, political commentators, and activists so far. If you have liked our content so far and want us to build an archive for the left, I have two requests for you. Please do consider donating for the cause. Link is in the description below. Also, if you are not able to do so, don't feel sad. You can always like our videos and share our videos to your comrades. Finally, don't forget to hit the subscribe button.